up and part of the stream, I guess. Do you often record live? I feel like
Sometimes.
most of the videos I've watched with you are like recorded, like either tutorials or like maybe like breakdowns of whether it be a white paper or tokens.
Yeah, I think like live's really good for just engaging like the community, right? I really like how people can chat and kind of like it feels like you're kind of closer to the people watching, but for tutorials and for like project breakdowns, there's no reason to go live. I think as well, like it's scary because like you say, if something goes wrong, then you're gonna have to deal with that live, and it's part of the video. But I don't think people really care. Like
That's
sometimes
true,
things
right?
go wrong. You know, sometimes like there's a blooper or something messes up, and I think that's just part of live streaming, and it's not a big deal. But it feels like it is when you're worried about it happening.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I've only done 3 live streams, and they
Oh,
actually
you've done it before
they
then.
came out pretty good. They came out pretty good. I was surprised they came out good because my thinking was I don't want to do any live streams because let's say I had my channel's going really good and then I screw up something on the live stream, then my whole channel could be ruined if you say something
Mm,
dumb or completely
yeah.
wrong. There was one live stream that I deleted off my channel because I was like, wow, there's a lot of cursing in this video. And I didn't know if YouTube was going to like that. So there was no way to really edit it out. So it was like a 2-hour live stream and I just got rid of it. It was a couple weeks ago. It was like me and Crypto Tank. We were talking about, all different stuff, but mainly like that Prop 89, like the content creator grant or whatever you want to call it, handout, I guess, the, the,
Yeah.
the, the monthly payment. We were talking about that. And then the conversation was off the rails. And I think he was trying to tell me like, take it easy, but it was late at night. I lose my focus.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Sometimes you have to delete content, I guess, if it doesn't fit. I find like swearing and profanity is not a big deal, but I guess it depends on your personal brand. Um, like Don, for example, he doesn't really hold back
No, he
on some
doesn't.
of his statements. No.
No, he does not. No, no, no. I feel like as we could stay like one notch inside of him, and it could still be really like I wouldn't say like NC-17 rated, but definitely R would seem mild next to Don. Let me share this quick, and then we could like roll into it.
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's see. Just it's like spaces. You always don't know how to start if you should give people time to come in, or just roll right into it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I just kind of like use like the introductory period. Like when I host a live stream, I'll just be like, "Oh, introduce yourself," and then while they're like introducing themselves, because I already know them, I'll just go over and like share
Yeah,
all the tweets
I
and
think
stuff,
you
get
can
people there.
edit once it's on YouTube. I
Yeah.
saw YouTube has some editing, so you could like clip out the first few minutes, or even like a middle piece. You could just get rid of it, which is nice. But once I make something, I definitely watch it. I watch it again just to make sure it's good, and also kind of what I can do better for the next time. But I've never tried to edit something that's already out there. I deleted
Mm.
what did I delete? I deleted like 2 videos. I deleted a live stream, it was like a stream of cursing, like the last hour of it, and then something else that just didn't apply anymore. I made a video on buying NFTs that were supposed to get discounts for validator fees, but then they ended that deal. So I just wanted to get rid of that video so no one was buying the NFTs for that purpose when there was no longer a tangible benefit.
Yeah, I get that. I think sometimes like you don't want to support a project that's not fulfilling what you kind of almost not marketed but put out to your audience. So it's something that's always on my mind with content.
Yeah, and well, it's hard with crypto too because you don't know in a year if a project either completely changes direction or completely changes their team or just doesn't exist anymore. You never know. Like a lot of the projects I look at now, I don't expect a lot of them to do anything like in the next 1 to 2 years, just because either run out of funding, people leave.
Hmm.
Sometimes once a token just loses a lot of its value, it people now view it as like a failed project and they're not interested in it. I think what's weird in crypto, people only like things when they're expensive. And then when they're cheap, they don't like them anymore. And it's with NFTs and it's with tokens, with fungible tokens. I think that's the weirdest thing ever, because with certain projects, nothing has changed except the price, and you're buying it at 30, and now you won't buy it at 10. It doesn't make any sense, and I think that's why the volatility is so high. I think it's a lot of inexperienced investors or traders putting way too much money into the system.
Yeah, I think so. It's just a symptom of investing, isn't it? I think, you look at some of like the meme stocks and stuff that like pump and
Yeah,
dump. Um, and I think like what I've been like looking at this stuff at is, you have like these tokens you invest in. Everyone seems to like value the projects based on the token and the price, but
right.
I'm kind of more interested in products now. Like,
Same. Yep.
oh, this is like $1 million business. Cool. The token's not going to $1 billion valuation, but this is like a solid $1 million business that's, turning over X amount of revenue, or it's got this many users or something like that. So I think we need to shift in that direction for that kind of
It's true.
that backwards thinking you were talking about,
Yeah,
with
like
liking the token expensive.
everyone loved Osmo when it was $11. Now it's like 75 cents. And I bought some below $1. I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm getting it basically at the bottom. It could go lower. Everything could still go down 90%. You never know with like inflation or whatever. Um, but yeah, people love expensive NFTs. Then as soon as the NFT from its peak drops down like 20 or 30%, which could be like one transaction, then all of a sudden people are worried about their NFT portfolio. And I've seen this on other chains too. This is definitely not just like a symptom of Cosmos NFTs, but I never understood, like, why don't you like it anymore? Just because other people don't like it at that price that you thought was great. It's very strange. And I think it's just a lot of people, maybe because the age of people that are mainly in crypto and NFTs, they never built, like, let's say, a stock portfolio through multiple market cycles. Um, but like an experienced investor would never look at prices, right? They would just put money in every month, whether it's a 401k or whatever the case might be. They don't really pay that much attention to the price, because they're like, well, the it's a long-term investment. I'm not trading. And then crypto is like the opposite, where people will buy something and then sell it 5 minutes later, even if they plan to hold it.
I think that's the thing, is they mix up investing and trading, right? They're not the same. Like they're the same like space in terms of like, you're buying, selling stocks, commodities, crypto, but they're very different like strategies, I guess, that people implement. Traders spend a lot of time at their computers, look at charts. Like some of them do just like fundamental analysis and do quick trades based on news or other stuff. And then there's like technical analysts who like spend a lot of time on charts. They look at like the relative strength index sometimes. They'll look at support, resistance. They'll look at other kind of things,
Yeah.
Fibonacci's, all of this kind of stuff. But like a lot of investors, I think, I'm not from the traditional investing space, but like what I've kind of picked up in crypto is like a lot of investors are looking at products and businesses or cryptos or projects, and they're just kind of like hedging their bets or putting their bets down on a few different things, and then they're kind of just sitting back and watching it for a long time. They're not actively trying to like get in and out and flip a quick profit.
Right, right. Well, Stryker just said something. What we were talking about, cursing, and whether or not we want our channels to go that way. Different countries have different words of varying shock levels. Yes, there's one in
Mm.
the United States that you definitely cannot say anywhere for some reason, but in Europe it's perfectly fine in like casual conversation. So we know what that is if you're American and you're watching this. So he's right. He's right. Well, the whole reason why I wanted to do this, and by the way, this is like way overdue, because you reached out to me like in June to do some content, and it was like right before I went on vacation. So then I'm like, oh yeah, I'll never be able to do this in July. It was like a family
Yeah.
trip. I wasn't even going to bring my computer. There was no reason to. And then it just and then you went on vacation, right?
Yeah.
You took a break. You took a very smart break, because you missed absolutely nothing in that like month or so. I don't think you missed anything. And then just like the weeks and months fly by. But for people that don't know, Liam, I think I've been like DMing you for not a year, but like for a while, and you definitely helped me out a little bit along the way not just like sharing videos, but I remember you gave me some. You told me a while back something about it was something about like sound quality. It was something about, I forget what it was exactly, but you said something to the effect of, if you know there's something that will, improve the quality of your videos, just buy it and use it. Or so it was like, just buy it and stop worrying about it, something like that. And it had to do with like a microphone or something like that, I remember. But I think more people should do content, or at least try, right? Maybe not YouTube if people don't want to be on video. um I don't know how you feel about the amount of content that's out there, not just for Cosmos, but crypto in general, and if people should give it a shot, whether it be podcast, Twitter threads, um, YouTube, any platform. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, first of all, like with what you said, I think that's like the main thing, like with just buying the stuff you need and getting on with it, because
Yeah,
like the most important thing that I've always said, and it's just based on like a video I watched on YouTube. I felt like almost like a content channel of like how to make content, and they were like, this is like the mistakes that people make, and I think everyone makes the mistake of like trying to perfect their audio, trying to perfect their like video, and they get caught up thinking about it for like so long, and they never actually think about make the content, like the substance of the content. Like,
right,
what
right.
am I going to include in this content video, or this content tweet thread, let's say. So like I think like the important thing is just to like get what you need out the way. Don't think about it, so you can think about what's important, and don't be a perfectionist as well. On the flip side of that, um, but yeah, in terms of like content in the space, yeah, I think more content's always good. I think it's easy to get into. I just think people set up barriers in their head for entering, which is like, they'll watch like Crypto Ceto, or maybe they'll now watch Cosmos Joe and think, this guy's already doing all this cool stuff. I could never make a video that good right off the get go. And the truth is, they probably can't, like, because they haven't put the work in yet. So
It,
it's like
it takes a lot of
imagine you're trying to learn how to play a game.
yeah,
Like, I don't know, let's say you Monopoly. Everyone knows Monopoly, I imagine. So imagine you're like, you play Monopoly for the first time, and you're like, there's no point playing this game because I'm playing against someone who's done it for 10 years, and it's like, well, you're never going to get good at it then. So you can't expect to be good right off the bat. So I think more people should do content, but they just need a bit of time to own their skills.
yeah. And I think content, like, it doesn't have to be YouTube. It could be Twitter threads. Those are really hard to do well. Uh, and even I've seen some accounts, they do really nice infographics, and sometimes that's better than a 20-minute video. You get this nice
Mhm.
infographic that's got just bulleted information. It stands out on Twitter, especially because of all like the text that you have to scroll through. And to me, that's content, and that could be really valuable, especially if you do it with some regularity. You'll get you'll it's probably easier to get a following on Twitter doing really well thought out threads. Doesn't have to be every day, or infographics, or Twitter Spaces, than it is to build a YouTube channel from scratch with all the tinkering that you have to do to get the videos right. I think I probably change something every single video that I do. It could be like the distance from the camera. It could be the position of the microphone, how I start the video, how I choose to end the video. Everything gets changed. I have kind of a working version of how I want, like I would say a standard, but it gets changed all the time. And I think what you said is right. You can't be a perfectionist. No video is perfect. Even like the ones where you have like a million subs and they specialize in making content, you could always find something. You could find a shadow in the background that's taking away from the feed. You could find, maybe they didn't explain something that they should have explained in order to cut the video short. But I think not being a perfectionist is was something I decided in the beginning, and that's the only reason why I started doing videos. Was like, all right, don't be perfect, just do the videos and just improve them on the fly. And that's basically what I did.
Yeah, totally. And I think like 2 points there was like regularity of like content super important. People want to kind of be felt like they want to feel like they're being kept up to date. So if you're kind of like making videos, like, and you do one on like a Sunday, and then you don't do one for 3 weeks, and it's on a Tuesday, and then you don't do another one, and the time of the day is like completely different. I think it's harder to get that initial following when you're kind of like building it up from bottom. I think
Yeah.
it's easier once you're like bigger. You can kind of be a little less regular. People know you. They've already got their notification bell on, so you can kind of, flip flop a little bit more on your content. And the second thing you mentioned was like iterating on like the sound quality and the video quality and stuff like that. Um, I actually don't believe that's the most important thing, because many people know my sound quality has not been great for 2 years. My video quality is like not improved that much. I mean, just look at the background here. You can see I like my pen comes in and out of the shot. But that doesn't majorly impact like people watching my content, because I keep consistent with the content, like the substance of the content. And like the areas that I've really been iterating week after week have been the like the topics that I'm covering, or how do I explain something in a better way, not how can I make my voice sound a little bit better in this next video. It's rather like, oh, how can I actually explain Atom in a better way next time, or how
Yeah.
can I do this tutorial a little bit more in a way that people will follow easier? What's the problem with the substance of the content, not what's the problem with the quality of the audio or the video.
That's definitely more important. And again, once I had like a certain amount of videos, I figured that the data that YouTube provides could be useful. For like 10 videos, I don't think it's that useful, especially if the videos are on all different things, right?
Yeah.
I had some tutorials, I had some, how to claim an airdrop videos, I had some interviews. I don't think the data is that useful in the beginning, but once you have, I don't know, X amount of hours of content out there and X amount of people tuning in, you could use the data. And the thing that I was shocked about, and I turned out to be the norm, was that almost no one watches the video past 30 seconds. And that to keep people
Mm.
watching beyond 30 seconds, it's a great metric that YouTube provides. It made me realize, like, wow, people just click my video by mistake. And then they're like, oh, I'm not watching this. They click right out of it. It might be 3 seconds that the people are not watching beyond. So all those views, like you could see the number of views. It could be only like a third of the people, or maybe let's say half, will watch beyond 30 seconds because it was an intentional click, or something turned them off from the beginning. Could be like a long-winded intro, could be
Mhm.
an awkward pause. People have short attention spans, and you're competing with everything on YouTube, right? So that was one thing that was like a shock. Like, wow, how do I get people to watch past 30 seconds? It's really hard. That was one of the things that was like a major, I would say a major focus for a while to get people to watch.
Definitely, yeah. And that was like something I picked up from the content channel I told you that I watched when I like was just starting out, and it was like things people do wrong, and it's like, their intro is like 1 minute or something, or they've got like a 2 minute introduction, and it's not snappy and it's not quick enough. And like those little things, you can spend like 30 minutes of your time, an hour of your time, just picking up the basics for, and then you don't need to think about that as much because you've just got it out the way, it, and you can go back to like the content. But you said a couple of things, Joe, there, like you're talking about competing with like all of YouTube. And I think one way you can kind of mitigate that with your content is when you like go for a particular niche. I think that's really what succeeded for me. I'd be curious to hear how your like journey's going with your kind of niche. It seems like you're focused on DeFi and NFTs, but for me, it really kind of when I stopped making Bitcoin content and I started focusing more on Cosmos, which was still more of a niche at the time, it got a lot more viewership because you're competing with less videos on the topic.
Yeah,
It's a great way to start.
I think for Cosmos, I don't think with the scope of that ecosystem, I don't think there are enough people on YouTube. I know there are a lot, and I don't know, there are probably like 10, right? Let's say, even if you don't watch their channel, I've seen it's almost every couple weeks I realize there's someone else making YouTube videos on Cosmos. Maybe it's not regular. That 10 maybe should be like 30, just because of the amount of events that we have in the ecosystem. Um, what I wanted to really do is talk about maybe tips that that you've learned just by doing that other people could pick up on? Maybe like we can go back and forth talking about what we've done that we think enhanced the quality of the videos, but also the usefulness of the videos for other people that they could maybe use as a shortcut if they decide to do content. And then maybe some things that we wish we did different over, let's say, the last year going forward. Is
Yeah.
that all right?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do
All right.
it.
So I'll let you go first. One thing that you think either sets your channel apart or just adds to the viewer's experience, let's say, that you think you've intentionally done well over your last, let's say, 50 or so videos?
And I've just been very like consistent with the type
Timing
of
wise?
content. No
Okay.
timing, yeah, but I don't think that's what sets it apart. Like the way I can't really say for sure because I'm not my audience, and other people
Right.
probably go, "Oh, this is what Liam does great. This is what he does bad." But like the way I like see it is like I always just kind of do the same thing, which is super short intro. I keep it educational. I focus on education. I don't hype it up. I don't do like weird thumbnails, and I think people appreciate that. And I think like when people like go and click on my channel, they say, "Oh, Liam's like just being honest. He's being like truthful. There's no marketing involved. There's no like ulterior motive, and it's just a guy making like videos and it's education focused."
Yeah.
So I think
And
like
actually,
specifically that's
when
what
I
I do
started
well.
watching you, that was, I think when I first started watching your videos, I don't know, it was probably a little more than a year ago, maybe like a year
Mhm.
and a half ago. That was one thing. Like, oh, look, these videos, they get right to the point. They stay on one topic. They're between like 12 and 20 minutes, which I think is ideal for a new person to digest the info. So I think that definitely helped.
Yeah, and I think when you're watching like different channels and they're kind of like seeming disingenuous in some way or not quite like wholesome, I think people are less interested.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think when I first came into the ecosystem, it was I watched you, I watched Cryptocito. I liked his interviews. It was all new to me. Even if a lot of the talk was over my head, he was just extremely just enthusiastic about Cosmos without ever shilling anything. And I was like, wow, this is great. This guy definitely knows the tech and the conversations above my head. But I watched him, I watched you. I really like the DeFi Times videos because the length of the videos, and again, similar to what you were doing, they would just stay on one topic for a reasonable amount of time. I was able to watch a whole bunch of those videos and your videos in a single day. For Cryptocitos in the beginning, I didn't know a lot of the people he was talking to. I still might not, right? I would watch those videos almost with a pen and paper, like, all right, what is this protocol about? What am I going to be able to do when this platform launches or on the platform currently? So those were the three that I used to basically onboard myself into the ecosystem. And that was prior to using any app except for Osmosis. I didn't use
Mm.
anything before that. Maybe I claimed some airdrops, and that was about it. Stargaze hadn't launched yet. There were no NFTs. Well, there was Secret Network, but yeah, I think that definitely helps. For me, I I, I didn't. I think what helped was I tried a whole bunch of different things, and I feel like I did figure out what works better than other things. What I thought was going to work in the beginning ended up not working, and I abandoned it. And it was I thought that people would not watch long videos, so I really tried hard to make my videos less than 5 minutes. And then I realized I said, you know what? I can't. Like I had to make them longer, and people would were more likely to watch them if the videos were longer, which was complete opposite of what I thought was going to happen. And I don't make those really short videos anymore because they take about the same amount of time to prepare for compared to, let's say, a 10 to switch after realizing that. And some of the YouTube data helped me, but also the feedback that I was getting. I was getting better feedback on the slightly longer videos, even if it was a simple tutorial. So I think that definitely helped. I think that definitely helped.
That's interesting because I would expect the opposite as well in terms of the
Yeah.
length of the videos. So it's
My,
great that you identified that.
my first few videos, my first couple dozen videos were strictly tutorials, how to claim an airdrop, how to supply liquidity, how to do a swap, and almost nobody watched them. And no one gave feedback. So I bet if I went back and looked at the YouTube data for those, they probably have a really low average watch time because the video is short already, right? So the average viewer probably only watched a minute, let's say, of those videos. That's terrible for trying to get monetized on YouTube because you need 4,000 hours of watch time to get even start to get monetized, and then I would only imagine you're making less than $1 a month at that level. Um, but yeah, longer videos better. It's almost like in crypto where people like more expensive tokens and NFTs. So that was my revelation. I would say after like 30 videos, maybe I realized no one's watching these short videos, at least not for long. So they're not really getting the tutorial anyway, because it goes, the tutorial takes 5 minutes. If they only watch a minute, they're not really watching it. So that was that. That was that.
Yeah, I
Anything
think
else that you think that you do that just enhances your channel?
actually, I think one of the things that's enhanced it is keeping it below just like 10 minutes. I know you said like your longer videos worked really well. But I think like with my earlier videos, I was rambling, not rambling, but it would always go on for like 20 minutes. And I think there was always like feedback, like, oh, this is a bit long. Or I'd kind of like spend too many words explaining like a sentence that
Yeah,
could be said in like ten words instead of 20 or 30 or 40. And that really allowed me to create streamlined tutorials. I know like Don, for example, started doing tutorials, and I think he'll go through the same streamlining process. Because what I noticed with tutorials in particular, which is kind of where I focused my niche, so there's a couple of things actually. So I'll come back to this point. But actually, like we were talking, like Cito's doing his YouTube videos. He's doing his like long form interviews. That's his niche and that's his like specialty, and he's really kind of done the best, I'd say, out of anyone in terms of viewership on these
yeah,
videos. And then I kind of said, hey, let's let Cito do these like these interviews. Sorry, I'm
right.
going to focus on a different form of content, which was tutorials and just like kind of project breakdowns. And that's when I started refining to that 10 minute point. So like you can kind of find a niche, as in you have a particular community or chain you want to focus your content on. Like you could focus it on Stash, the NFT marketplace you were talking about in Secret. You could focus it on any one of like 50 Cosmos chains, and that's going to give you an advantage starting off. Like if anyone watching is like thinking of starting content, but it's also like the type of content. Um, I'm not sure whether like the long form like videos, maybe those interviews do better, which is what you noticed with your content. But I always think there's like gaps in content, which I'd love to see people fill. I just want to go back to Don's point, like the point about Don very quickly, because Don's in the chat as
You
well.
heard
Like
you heard his name.
you heard his name, yeah, so he's appeared. Yeah, I think like Don, you've started doing tutorials and they're like really good. I watched a couple of them. I really like the one on like minting on Stargaze. Um, or creating an NFT. I think like what I went through with my tutorials was like streamlining the amount of words used for the tutorial, right? Because what I noticed is like these projects do their own tutorials of how to do these things, but they kind of make it way too short and they miss out like key points where people get stuck. So it ends up being like a 2 minute tutorial on how to, like, let's say, buy an NFT, and then they'll miss out all these like mini steps that actually affects like the end user. So like what I wanted to do is streamline my tutorials to have all of these like key points that people might fall back on, and so they can follow it step by step, but not talk in between those steps. So the video doubles in length. Because I think with tutorials, like what people want is for it to be concise, but also have all the information, and I
Yes,
don't think that happens for
I
most
agree.
most tutorials.
I agree. The whole reason why I started doing content was I thought that most YouTube videos or even like written documents, they assume too much background knowledge for the viewer or the reader. And I'm a teacher. So when I design, let's say I have to design some activity, and I know what I want the students to do midway through or at the end of the activity, I go backwards. I say, okay, I want them to do this. What do they need to know to do this? And then I try to, okay, what about the student who doesn't even know how to do that? What do they have to know to get to this point?
Mm.
What if they can't even read the directions? What if they're so disorganized they can't follow steps? I have to basically keep going lower and lower and lower until you get to like the root of it. Like, okay, if I want this kid to do this, I have to say everything I want to say in 10 steps into 4 without being too wordy, like you said, without assuming too much background knowledge. And maybe, and I've had to do this before, maybe I have to tape it to their desk so they don't lose it. Right. Like, and I think I needed that for crypto content back in like 2016, 2017. If they were better
Mhm.
YouTube videos, if there were better YouTube videos in 2017, because I was staying up all night for days at a time trying to consume as much content as possible when I did my initial like Bitcoin, Ethereum, I had my aha moment of how Bitcoin worked, but it would take me maybe 20 hours to research something that should have only taken like an hour because the videos, they were too technical. Um, they would assume you already like owned and knew how to use a ledger. I said, this is not good. There needs to be more really basic, but still helpful videos out there because the experienced people will still watch them kind of like to shore up their foundational knowledge, I guess,
Mm,
because that's what
yeah.
I still do. And like you said, Cryptocito does one type of interview that I can't do. I don't know the questions to ask for a lot of these you know, developers, programmers. So my interviews I try to make them different, even though I like doing the interviews. It doesn't make sense for me to do exactly what Cryptocito does. It doesn't make sense. I can't have that conversation. And for you, I see you break down sometimes like a white paper or tokenomics. I would rather watch you do it than spend, it would take me hours to do a 20-minute tokenomics video because I have to make sure I'm saying something correctly and still delivering the information to the average person who maybe just discovered the token yesterday. But that
Sometimes you get it wrong. Like sometimes
yeah,
you'll
oh,
like say something that's slightly incorrect, and like I think you have to be fine with that because you're not like a regulatory approved like educator in this like field, for example.
of
You're not
course.
like someone who's going to get everything right as a content creator. And I think as long as you pick up on those like things you've like maybe worded slightly incorrectly, or I edit my videos, right? So I have to watch it back after recording to like cut out the bits where I mess up or like I do something wrong, and like I'll be like, oh, I've said this bit wrong, but it still needs to be in the video because it's kind of like a key part, but it's like
Yeah.
slightly inaccurate. And I think, okay, like that bothers me, it like really annoys me because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. But I say to myself, like, it doesn't, like, I can't get it perfect. So I have to put it out there. And next time I won't say it that way. I'll explain it in a different way if it comes back up. So you have to be okay with that
Yes.
in order
Yes.
to move forward. And there was one other thing I wanted to say because you mentioned like it takes hours for like maybe some types of content, doing the
Yeah.
research,
For me,
presenting
it
like
takes a long time.
tokenomics.
Yeah.
I think that's because you haven't done it much, right? And like
Yeah.
maybe you're someone who's not like very good at that part of like content, so you do different content. I can't say whether you are or not, but I think for a lot of people, they'll make like a video that they see someone else do and it will take them like 20 hours, let's say, because they have a ton of research to do, or they have to do loads of editing, or they do scripting. By the way, I don't script any of my videos, so it's all kind of just off of cues that I have on screen. Like there's no scripting. But anyways, like your process for like making content will get streamlined over time, so it will be slower at the beginning.
For sure.
You're going to get faster. You're going to find better ways to edit. You're going to get in a rhythm, so like, oh, I can kind of like edit this way, and it's just going to make it a lot quicker. I think of a business, right? When they first start out, they have a load of problems that they have to get through. They have to figure out like, oh, why is this not efficient? Why are we spending so much time in meetings when we could be spending that in a different area? And basically, you're going to do the same thing with your videos until you basically streamline your production process in the same way a business would. And once you've got that process streamlined, you're going to save a lot of time.
That's one of the things, my goal for 2023 is to streamline my process and just get more efficient. Right.
Yeah.
I started doing that with interviews, and I think the results speak for themselves. Like I said, I can't have the same conversation that, let's say, Cryptocito has with a dev.
Mhm.
I said, you know what, I could do it differently, and it will still be good for the viewer. And what I decided to do was start every interview with the shortest introduction possible. Um, we'll get to know the person throughout the video, or you know, the links are in the description, right? You want to go into the Discord, you want to read the white paper, it'll be down there. I don't want to read it in front of the guest. So what I did was I start every interview with yes or no questions. So, that avoids like long-winded responses or just discussion that loses the person in the first 4 minutes. So that the yes or no questions, they're usually on topic. Then we go into the other stuff, like whatever the interview is going to be about. And what I started doing, and this has been the best thing for my channel, I I use my Telegram community to supply questions. So
Mm.
I put a Google form in Telegram. Hey, I'm going to interview this person. Whatever questions you have, drop them in here. And I just ask those questions because those are the true community viewer questions that I'm not going to think of necessarily. And the feedback that I have gotten from the guests is that they enjoy answering those questions more. It was uh, Ethan Fry, um,
Mm.
uh, Jake Hartnell. They actually like had fun in the interview rather than just talking technicals the entire time. And people watch those videos for a really long time. I did the same thing with Don. I interviewed Don. The community questions were hilarious. I would have never. I would have one of the questions was, "Is your accent fake?" So I would have never asked that. But people watch those the longest. And again, for YouTube, it kind of sucks. And I get why people shill stuff. You need watch time in order to monetize your YouTube channel. And in the end, that kind of has to be your goal. Otherwise, you're just going to stop doing it. You lose incentive because you'll do all the interesting stuff in the beginning, and then you'll be scrambling for topics, and it becomes harder and harder, even with a process. So I don't know how you feel about that.
It's true. I'm actually not very motivated for content at the moment because I haven't got any monetization, and it's like a
Really?
really tough topic. Yeah, yeah. I've actually stopped my Comdex agreement this month because I'm not making that much content at the moment anyway.
Got it. Got it.
So that means the only monetization I have is YouTube ad revenue, which is about £100 a month, like maybe £200 if
I
I
would
do
take
more
that.
videos.
That would offset my subscriptions, I think. That wouldn't be so bad because I have to, you probably do the same thing. I have to subscribe to the platform I'm using now. I think it's like 50 a month.
Yeah,
I have an
it
editing
all adds up.
software. Yeah, editing software, and I have to upgrade my editing software to something more professional. So I don't use Adobe anything. So I
Hmm.
today was my
Neither.
day to download that and play around with that. Um, I've used different softwares, but that's just not my thing. So
Mhm.
it would take me probably months to get good at it. Probably months.
So it covers your costs, like the YouTube ad revenue covers your like expenses, maybe like
It would.
around
I'm
the
not monetized
production.
yet. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm more than halfway there, but it's taken a year to get
Is it the watch hours that you're
the
missing?
watch hours I'm missing because
Yeah.
I would say 80% of my videos are so short. I don't want to say they weren't worth making, but I didn't have the goal of getting monetized then. But now I'm realizing it's a little bit expensive to run a YouTube channel. Not expensive, but it costs you something. For the time is one thing that it costs you, and then um, I bought a microphone, $300. I need to buy a new computer. That's going to be $2,000. The
Hmm.
subscriptions are I hate subscriptions. I would rather just pay money in the beginning and not have a monthly bill. But the software that I have, it's subscriptions. So yeah, hundred pounds a month is roughly $100. That would be nice, even though it's nothing, right? For the time that it takes.
The thing is, like, obviously you can keep making your content without monetization because you have your job, right? And I think like that's the tricky part is when you transition into full time crypto, you're actually not able to subsidize your content creation. So you have to
Yeah,
monetize, right, in a different
correct.
way. like the flip side of that is time. Like you have a lot more time when you're like in crypto to focus on your content if you're full-time crypto. Whereas, you know, what you do, Joe, is amazing because you work and you do the content on the side. So that's like a completely different grind. But you were asking like earlier, you know, whether or not like well, what I think about monetization and staying motivated, because you kind of have to go down that road one way or another. And I think it's a very precarious path to like be going
Yeah,
down, like monetization, because it's all about like how you monetize, like what partnerships you forge, the way I look at my content, and I think this is why I'm like so militant in my like style of just being educational, not kind of like deviating from that and getting like more towards entertainment, which I think you and Don, for example, do a lot better. You can be much more entertaining in your content. I'm like
yeah.
very like militant on my educational stance. So I come across like a lot more not dull, but a very like level. You know, there's less like fun and excitement, and it's more just level headed.
But it's to the point, and you're on a topic that people. It's probably easier to search for your videos, right? Because you have a specific topic and an aim with each video, and that's how I found you in the beginning.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. And you can use like search engine optimization and stuff to make your like your titles for the video better and stuff. But that's
Yeah,
like not important for people starting out. Like that's just kind of once
I
you
agree. Yeah,
like refine things over time. But yeah, the point I was making is like monetization is like so difficult. And I feel like there's just never been a good monetization opportunity that I felt like I should take without sacrificing like the quality or substance of my videos in some form. Even with the paid partnerships that I've had, like the collaborations, and these are projects that I was already covering that I said, hey, let's make an agreement because they wanted me to do more content on them. Like even they come in expense, right? Because let's say you partner with a project, we can name any project. Let's just say Evmos, because I've never partnered with Evmos, so I think it's a good example. But let's say I partnered with Evmos, and then they were paying me like 2,000 a month or something, and I was like, yeah, this is great. I really like what you guys are doing. So I can make content on you. I'm really interested. There's a lot of updates coming from your project. So I can make lots of videos. And it's
yeah.
going to benefit my audience because I think Evmos is a good platform for my users, like my audience to use. And then let's say 2 months down the line, because this is crypto, things change overnight. 2 months down the line, like suddenly Evmos pivots and they completely change the tokenomics or something, like imagine Luna, same example with Luna, and then
Yeah,
Luna's like
yeah.
suddenly crashes, and you're suddenly like, oh no, I can't actually keep this partnership anymore because Luna's going down the drain. Or now I have to explain to my audience that I've not screwed them over. I don't know if screwed is the best language to use. I've not messed them over. Um, you know, I have to explain to them that I didn't know it was going to crash, and suddenly you
All
have
right.
this like responsibility, and if you do it wrong,
Even
it can
even
really
if
be
you don't
detrimental.
even if you don't have an agreement with your audience, let's say, because you're free to do whatever you want, there is an implied agreement where this is my style. When you click on my YouTube, these are the kinds of videos you should expect, right? Like it's you go into a chain restaurant, you don't need to look at the menu every single time you go into a different McDonald's, right? It's kind of like that. I don't have that yet. I'm still all over the place with my videos. Some of my videos are, you know, 45-minute long interviews. Some of my videos are 10-minute tutorials. It just I don't have the brand, let's say, or the I don't know what I don't know what you would call it. I don't know, maybe the mission, right? I don't have that yet.
Okay. I think you'll find it over time. Like you'll probably find like certain types of content are more interesting to you or your audience, and then you'll kind of like end up going down that road of having that particular brand or mission. That's how
Yeah,
I found it with me. I kind of got really focused on like altcoin season when that kind of popped off. I did some videos that did really well. My TA was like really good at that point. I was using some really good metrics, and then after that, like Cosmos came along, and then I kind of found my mission or a new mission or a better mission, in my opinion, around the Cosmos ecosystem. So I think that just comes over time. So I'm curious to see how you get on with that.
yeah. I 2023. I want to take a more like business approach like kind of legitimize a little bit, and then I would be
Mm.
in a position to maybe get some paid sponsorships. I've turned down everything, and now I regret. I regret turning down everything because I've been messaged a bunch of times. Hey, I would like to support your channel. Hey, can we do some kind of deal? And then my response was like, I don't even know how that works in Web3. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble if I take payment. I don't know how to even put it on my taxes. And also, I don't want it to affect my content because I feel like my content is it's neutral. I've avoided opinionated content for the most part. I would say 95% of my videos, my opinion is never part of the content. Some of it is. And I've avoided opinionated material on purpose. I think that's a regret of mine because I think putting stuff on your YouTube where you say, I think this is what's going to happen, or I think this is my evaluation of something, and then you could look back in 6 months and say, look, I was right. And I think the audience, you could build trust with the audience that way. I avoided a controversial video that I scripted out completely because I got killed on a previous one by a specific community. So I was like, I don't want to put this video out, and I should have done it. But yeah, I've tried to stay neutral, and I've said no to every paid partnership that I was approached with. I think that's probably a mistake. I'd have a new computer now.
True, there are benefits to it. I'm in the same boat. I stay neutral for the most part. Even the paid partnerships I've had, they're very minimal compared to like the audience I have.
Don asked, "What was your best paid gig?" If you're free to share, I don't know if you are. I've heard that with some of the
I've
paid gigs, you're not supposed to share. But
Yeah, I don't know what I can and can't share. I mean, I've always been transparent with like who I've worked with, which is only ever been Persistence, Comdex, and Asset Mantle. Asset Mantle like was for like a month, and then I decided it wasn't going to fit. I didn't see like the benefit for my audience. To be honest, what happened is like they just stopped replying to me as well, and I was like, well, I can't work with this anyway, so I just stopped really quick. I think Comdex have been really good, and Persistence. They're both really good teams for communicating. They actually care about the community, and I know Comdex has had some like controversies around their paid shills that everyone talks about, but
yeah,
I think that they get a bit of a hard time for that, and I think like the community's made their point, and I think Comdex addressed it pretty well and moved on from it. And I've never got paid more than $1,000 a month by any
a
project
month.
I've worked with, which is very minimal compared to
I
what a
think it
lot of
is
people
too.
get paid.
Because here's the thing. Let's say you're gonna focus 50% of your videos on one blockchain because you're getting paid. There's an opportunity cost as well, where now
Yeah.
you're doing less videos on bigger communities. So now this could affect your future YouTube monetization, right? So I learned that the hard way. I said, there's a big trade off. I'm not going to focus on a
True.
blockchain that has like a $30 million market cap because that probably means there are less people searching for those videos. There is there's an opportunity cost, and I think one of the positives that came out of the Prop 89 on the hub, where a validator who was making YouTube videos put up a prop to get paid ahead of time to do content, right? Their style of content is a little different than what other people are doing. They use that to get paid. And then another content creator goes to Juno to ask for the same thing. And the conversation was, you guys already do the videos for free. Why would we pay you? It's a good question. But then I'm thinking, Juno is basically a collapsing token right now. For me to spend all my time on Juno would be a horrendous mistake. The people that are left in the community are borderline toxic, at least on social media, and they don't have a DEX anymore. The
Hmm.
NFT, the main NFT platform is riddled in controversy, and this is like something I should revisit in 6 months, right? So now I'm thinking, if a YouTuber is not getting paid to cover a very small project or a small blockchain, it's taking them away from other content that might hit a bigger audience.
Yes and no. Like, definitely agree. I definitely think it's a massive opportunity cost. If you've got an established community behind your channel, and you have to focus 50% of your content on a small chain that's not necessarily of interest to them, or it doesn't benefit them. That content's like paid adverts don't always benefit your audience as much as making
Right.
content on something more specific. And I think that's the biggest opportunity cost. But with the small content, like Juno, I get, like, let's say in a bear market, if you're going to suddenly focus on a $20 million market cap chain for your content entirely, there's always like the risk that chain collapses.
And
And then
I
you
don't
have
think
to
the
like
chain's gonna
change.
collapse, to be clear, because Juno people will watch this. I think now Juno is almost starting from square one. It's almost like
But
a
there's a community there.
it,
The thing is,
it,
there's a community there, so that means you can basically. What my point is you can basically go and use that niche to start your channel. Like I think if anyone's watching in chat and they like want to start a YouTube channel, they should focus on a chain like Juno because it's got a big community. It means you're going to get off the get go. You're going to get say 500, 200 views, maybe 100 just for your first 5 videos. But if you're going to improve over time, you'll have an established community base to build off of.
yeah,
And you
no,
won't have that with Bitcoin. If you make
oh,
Bitcoin videos, you'll get 10
yeah.
views because you can't compete with Lark Davies or MM Crypto or Ivan on Tech because like they're going to monopolize the algorithm searching on YouTube. So
And
I
I
think
think
starting with Juno is actually good.
what you're saying makes sense also because Juno's not an app specific chain, but also you don't have to talk about like you don't have to make price predictions to get attention on
Yeah,
your video, right? Like if you're covering
yeah,
Bitcoin and you're not doing basically price pump videos or at least like trading charting, you might get no. I made a MetaMask video. I thought people would
mm,
watch it. That is the worst video that I ever made in terms of views, and it was literally a tutorial, like a soup to nuts tutorial on getting started with MetaMask, like the Web3 wallet. MetaMask is the
yeah.
gateway to Web3. No one cared. I was like, wow. And I understand like the quality wasn't great, but it just teaches you a lesson, I think. Like every video that you get disappointed in or surprised in a good way, um, people might not care no matter how good you think the video is. And
Yep.
like I thought the MetaMask video would be at least useful. It was not at all. So
The,
like
the reason why that is because you have like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 videos on MetaMask already, which is doing a tutorial of almost the same thing.
yeah,
And it's just the YouTube algorithm, right? Which is like, let's say someone searches on YouTube how to set up MetaMask, right? And you've just made your video, your tutorial. Like, what's going to come up is those 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 MetaMask tutorial videos will come up before yours. And this is why it's
it won't
beneficial
be
to
on the
start
first
out on a
page.
smaller chain. Like, because if you're going to start out on Juno, let's say your tutorial is how to stake your tokens on Juno. Like suddenly you're only competing with 4 videos, and there's going to still be a small niche community that's going to search how to stake Juno,
Yes.
and you're going to compete with less videos. So that's why I think starting out focusing on smaller chains is the better way to go because you establish a niche and then you can build on that niche by broadening out. And CryptoCito's done this really well, which is like when he pivoted to Cosmos specifically, he started doing Cosmos only project coverage. And now he's actually at a point where he's got enough followers that he can start branching out into
I
doing
saw
interviews with Near Protocol and Avalanche and stuff like that. But you need to
I saw
establish
him
the community
I
first.
saw him start to pivot and but like you said, it's branching out. It's not pivoting. I think I started out mainly covering osmosis and stargaze. That was just I do videos on just what I'm interested in. Otherwise, I won't have the enthusiasm to do the video. Like I'm not gonna
Totally agree.
go to an
Mhm.
ecosystem that I don't like at all and do a bunch of tutorials. Even if there's an audience there, that's not I wouldn't prioritize those videos. But I started out with stargaze and osmosis, and even like I did some Omniflix videos. Omniflix videos for me, and this is like a massive like oversight on my part. Omniflix videos for me get more views than my Stargaze videos for whatever reason. I don't know why. And I have a list. Maybe you have the same thing. I have a list of like 30 videos that I want to make.
Mhm.
Content creator, and I don't have time. I have my regular job, then I have a night job that's the hours are changing all the time, and then I have 3 kids in my house. So I have to work out like a list of priorities to do videos balancing what people want to watch, what can get me new subscribers and new views, and also what I actually like. And that's going to be my challenge going forward, I think. How do I prioritize? To me, I it's hard to motivate at the end of the day unless I really, really want to do something. But what I want to do might not be what people even care about. So it's going to be probably ongoing struggle. There's a good question here, by the way.
I agree with what you said, though. It's so hard to balance like your personal interests and curiosities and enjoyment for making content with what the consumers want or the audience want or the community in Cosmos wants more specifically. So I
Yeah,
totally get that.
you could see the question, right? What other blockchains are you both looking forward to apart from Cosmos? I'll let you go first because you've done videos on Litecoin, I remember, and a couple others like back in the day, right? Like I feel like I've seen a Litecoin video that you did when you were doing charting, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, this is what I mean. Like what we were just talking about with what do we enjoy and what's like the consumer wants, and what's valuable and what the consumer wants isn't always the same thing either.
Yeah.
Like that Litecoin video, it's like how Litecoin will hit $2,000, I think, in 2022 or
I think it
something.
might. I think it could do it in 2024. I and to answer the question, I'm looking. I want to see more proof of work chains because I see severe limitations on proof of stake. They're good for certain things, but now Ethereum has shifted a balance to where now proof of stake is almost going to be more common. I'm
Mhm.
interested in proof of work. Like, why is Litecoin so cheap to mine? Right? Maybe that they might be able to steal that green energy narrative from Bitcoin a little bit and get some attention. It's more decentralized, I think, than most proof of stakes. But what blockchain would you like to look into outside of Cosmos? I guess
Hmm.
you're
Hard question
so
because
dedicated to
yeah.
Cosmos, you can't even name one.
I don't need to. I don't need to expand into other chains. Like maybe I would if I got bigger, but there's enough substance and variation in Cosmos, in different chains in Cosmos that I don't think there's ever a need to kind of like create content on other chains. At least not for the next year.
Cosmos
That's
is
what's
kind of
great.
expanding. Cosmos is expanding for us, right? Like there's going to be
Yeah,
chains added. All think about this. You could probably do months of content on the consumer chains when they launch.
yeah,
Um, I'm very interested in Archway and Celestia. I tried to read those docs, and I can understand like 8% of those documents. But for me, I learn better having conversations with people. I can't tear apart documents and get much out of it. But Archway looks
mhm.
interesting to me. Celestia could be a competitor for the hub.
It
Even
is. It will be.
it could be a competitor to Polkadot, and and I
It
just
will be.
want to understand how it's more efficient and better for the applications that will be launching on top of it. I I don't see a tremendous bull case for the Atom token right now. If interchain security turns out to be a bunch of junky protocols whose tokens just go to zero because people are swapping them into Atom, I don't see that as really allowing Atom to capture the value of all the tech that's in this ecosystem. And that would be really horrible for my portfolio and probably many other people's. So I would like to branch out outside Cosmos. I have I did a spaces last week with Polygon. It was NFT themed, and I have a video mostly scripted out for Polkadot, comparing Polkadot side by side with Atom. I think these are good comparisons, and I'm gonna I want to finalize some things before I put the video out, so it's just not. I don't want it to be overly biased towards Cosmos, but I know much more about Cosmos. But yeah, Polkadot's an interesting one because it looks like they steal a lot of Cosmos's ideas and they've modernized it. Maybe like they've maybe learned from some hiccups in Cosmos to fix things ahead of time. Their governance looks better. I don't know if it is, but it looks better. However, I think IBC is just going to be supreme, you know, for the interoperability narrative. Yeah, I don't know if you've looked into Polkadot at all.
A little bit, yeah. I'm invested in Polkadot. I participated in the Parachain auctions.
Oh,
I did a
cool.
couple of tutorials on those. That's one good way to branch out. Like, I'm not just using Cosmos. I do have MetaMask. I do use not really Ethereum because I don't want to pay the fees, but I use
Makes sense.
Polygon sometimes. I use Polkadot. I've got, Polkadot wallet. I even had a Solana wallet just when I played around with Solana.
Same. Yeah.
And with tutorials, it's so ideal for branching out because it's like, oh, I'm about to participate in a Polkadot auction. I might as well record a tutorial on that because I'm going to do it anyway. So that's a good
I
way to
think the
go. But
the parachain
yeah,
auctions to me, at first I didn't like them because I said, you know what, this just looks like a popularity contest. It doesn't necessarily mean the best applications will get this attention, but
mhm.
it gives immediate use, forces projects to get outside investment. Cosmos as a whole, I think they need more outside investment. I don't think they could just go around asking for it, but I think they could attract it if some things are changed. And some people are like totally anti VC, but I think that if you have quality protocols and quality tech, you should be able to attract outside investment and not rely on just your own token to pay for everything, or your own community to constantly pay for anything. I think that's a huge struggle for Cosmos right now as a whole.
But why can't the community be the VCs? Like that's always how I view
They
the
can,
community pool.
but now you're just you're not generating funding from outside. Only NFT projects do this right now in Cosmos, where they could generate voluntary support for a very small project. But for, let's say, a blockchain or a DeFi protocol, you have to amplify. That has to be 100 times the amount of money, I think, to make it interesting.
Mm.
A good NFT project could raise $10,000 in a day, but I think for a DeFi protocol, you probably need in the millions to
Yeah,
be able to
given the
develop.
scale.
Um,
Mm.
I know Archway raised money, Evmos raised money. I think Celestia raised some money. The fact that professional investors are willing to drop millions of dollars into a protocol, you could almost do a secondhand analysis. Like, well, if they did their due diligence, maybe I should pay attention to this protocol. Where something like Juno or even the Hub, they're just spending their own token to fund development. And I think this is one of the reasons why some tokens get quote unquote dumped. I don't consider it dumping, but it it's hard to develop when things are priced in US dollars or euros and you're using your own token to fund that development. And I see a lot of these proposals, whether it be Juno or Cosmos, and I just started looking at governance, let's say 2 months ago. I don't think they return much to the community for the amount of money that's in the ask. I think that I would rather burn through VC money to do some of these high risk, low reward spends. And I think it's better overall to have a balance where the community is not always taking on the risk there.
And when you get the VC money, though, you have to sell them tokens, right? So it's the same problem where you still have to spend your own tokens to attract the VC capital.
Possibly, but at least they'll have a stake. And also, I think if I was going to invest in an ecosystem, I would want to know how it's going to be monetized going forward. Are you just going to build something and then give it away for free? Why would I invest in that at all? Um, and I think that's one of the issues. I think Cosmos has to monetize their tech somehow to fund development. Otherwise, I think the community pools are going to be constantly peppered with just spend proposals to fund development, and then it's going to be given away. Like right now, there's a prop to have a public test net for interoperable NFTs. I've never seen this in another ecosystem where you'll be able to move NFTs cross chain like you could move fungible tokens. But what if they burn through that 200,000 and the tech is still not ready? Or even if it is ready, that's a product, right? That technology is a product. If you can't monetize it, how can you keep up with development? Are you going to just keep asking every year for $200,000? It's that's not sustainable, and the community funds are finite. And not only are they finite, you're hitting the community pool when the tokens are basically bottoming in a bear market. They don't go as far. So that I think that there needs to be a way to attract outside investors. Where just like if you've watched one episode of Shark Tank, you could see most of the sharks want residual income somehow. It could be 5 cents, 10 cents, or 1 cent. If people are going to use the tech, a fraction of a cent, for every transaction, it's almost like a small tax, right? And I think that could be put into a fund to develop some of these protocols or this technology.
Yeah, I think investing capital wants products and revenue, right? And until we find those products in the Cosmos ecosystem on a bigger scale than what we've seen, we're not going to have that kind of sustainable like spending and revenue generation, and that whole cycle. Maybe the VC money can help bring the products, but maybe the community pool spends can also help bring those products. But maybe you're right in that we have to be specific on our choices.
I'm known for being very cheap, but I would like to spend a lot of community money during a bear market. But the way the proposals are written, it doesn't seem like there's an avenue for the community to get any kind of return on a lot of these spends. Like, what does the community get for basically buying a product or funding a product? Are you going to just build it and then when you're done, give it away for free, and then the community gets to use it? Big deal. Some of it's built already. Like the interoperable NFTs, I was told 6 months ago or 7 months ago that it was ready to go. There's no UI, and they want to test it. The developers will run the test, presumably. They'll pay themselves. And then what? What if it's not enough? Do you just keep going to the same well over and over again? And I don't think this will bring outside volume into the ecosystem. People that are here now will definitely use it. But there needs to be the idea that these are calculated risks, but I've never seen a calculation in my life with these community spends. It's just like, well, we're devs, we build stuff, we test stuff, and this is how much we think we should get paid. I would like to see the community make counter proposals before these things go on chain. And I don't think there's the mechanism for that in Cosmos governance. It's really simple: yes, no, abstain, no with veto. And Juno had a big community pool. Cosmos, they had a big community pool. Now in the bear market, people should pay more attention to how the funds get spent, I think.
There's not really much of a counter proposing ethos though in the community. I think a lot of time there are just complaints, and I don't mean that like lightly, like, oh, you're just complaining, shut up and stop talking. I just mean maybe like these complaints, which are often valid, should come with those counter proposals that you're suggesting or discussion, right? Because just saying, this is rubbish, like terrible people, that doesn't do anything, right? That just says, oh, that's a bad idea. That's it. It doesn't say, oh, that's a bad idea, but we do like the concept of having this kind of program. So how about this or how about that? And I think we need to just kind of change that culture. But yeah, other than that, I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I'm inclined to agree.
The counter proposals need to be, the complaints can be constructive. Because obviously we want technology that no one else has. But what good is it if it just keeps costing the ecosystem money over many years versus generating some value that now accrues to, let's say, atom stakers, right? I think that will that has to be put into these props. Otherwise, they're not community spends; they're just handouts, and the handouts are not sustainable. No matter what gets built, right? It doesn't matter what gets built if there's no actual value. It's just going to have to get constantly upgraded and developed over the years, and that's going to cost money. It's hard to explain because you want things to be open and free, but in the end, everything that is built needs to be looked at as a product or a business, and you don't want all of these products to be liabilities long term. Because
that's what I was going to say.
In the end, the community is going to pay for it, whether you think so or not. Let's say you pay $100,000 to a developer to build. They're not going to take that money and then stake it. That doesn't make sense. They're paying their expenses. To them, that's a salary. They're selling it. So as soon as there's a spend, it literally is going to get spent. And there needs to be, I would say, some benefit for that short-term selling pressure. And it could be a one-time sell. The tokens can be vested. things can be better thought out, and maybe Cosmos is just ahead of the game with governance, and that's why there are these issues popping up. That's what I tend to think, because I don't see
There's
this
no
other.
incentive to fund governance either. Like I actually came to this conclusion at Cosmoverse, right? Which is I talked to all these people and they're like super passionate about governance and they're super passionate about like the way we go about voting on proposals or like developing the ecosystem or like there was a real like it seemed like there was a real community like passion about the fact that we're not just building like blockchain and code, like we're actually organizing humans. And that's what the governance and DAO perspective of all these chains are. But like alongside that, like passion, there wasn't anyone who's like, so what we're going to do is we're going to spend $2 million on this, or like we're going to develop this much of governance like stuff. Because like there's no reason to spend the money. It's like you're saying, like developing all these governance structures is a liability. It's not a revenue generating asset.
Right.
And that's kind of like the chicken and the egg, right? Which is like, you're spending all these like funds on liabilities, whether it's like new like contract like upgrades like Cosm wasn't spending, or whether it's like spending on some other liabilities or new tech. But at some point, you have to change from liabilities to assets, like in terms of your funding. But you can't fund assets until you have like the infrastructure there to
Yeah.
enable these assets or products to work in a way that's going to attract users. So it's a chicken and an egg situation.
No, it
It's
is,
the
because
same with governance as well.
at some point you have to start somewhere, right? The system of governance is basic enough that it could be tweaked, and the different chains could tweak their governance in different ways to optimize for what they have on their chain. And then I would just like to see, um, you know, best practices. Whatever's working on these 5 chains, maybe we should adopt it on these 5 chains that are struggling with the same
Yeah.
problem. And I think that will happen. There's going to be an evolution for sure. I know with WinDAO, there's going to be not just the typical yes, no, abstain voting, and I would really like to see how that works out. And that was Ethan explained that to me in the video that I did. But there were going to be 2 variations of governance that don't exist that will definitely make a big difference. For example, let's say you put up a prop and these 5 projects want to get funded, there would be almost like a weighted voting where you're not just picking one winner out of the 5. Maybe the top 3 get varying amounts of funding based on the support they got from the community. That makes more sense. I don't think that needs to be every single chain's governance structure, but different ideas like that could um, just optimize governance, let's say, for chains that need it. And I think the hub will need something more than yes, no, abstain for community spends, because the community is not really spending the money. The validators are spending the money. And ironically, the validators are also getting the money from these spends. And the most recent one, it's mostly validators that are involved in the prop, and they're going to vote. So it's there needs to be some guardrails in place for I know validators have a self stake as well, but it can't just be validators determining the direction of the community pool. Otherwise, just don't call it a community pool, right? It doesn't make sense to call it that if the community barely weighs in on props.
It's all valid points.
And there's no answer right now, but just discuss, and then maybe by this time next year, governance
Hopefully.
is 15% better. Let's say, I think
Mhm.
that's reasonable. What do you think about what's going on with red, blue, purple? I don't know what's going on. I got blue tokens. I don't know what they're for. I do know that there's no liquidity pools for these. They're not worth any money. So stake some, vote with some, give some away. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand it at all. I guess we're testing DAO version 2. Is that what we're doing? I should know, but I don't. Anyway, I wanted to, if you don't mind, I wanted to wrap this up with maybe one thing that you could think of that you would apply to your, or at least try in your content creation process, or like finished products that maybe you've been thinking about, but you haven't actually put it into practice yet, that you think is going to help your channel.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or
I can
like
say something.
any goals going forward that to kind of push you along.
Yeah, I think if I was going to push like the channel along further, I think I would actually look at changing the structure more towards a business, because I think that's necessary for the long term sustainability of the channel. Like, I wouldn't change too much with my processes. I would tweak it, but I think what I've got process wise is really good. I could probably do with like hiring people, which is why I need a business model,
Yeah,
so I can
same.
kind of delegate responsibility and tasks and time, to different people to spend on different things. But yeah, that is the main thing I would improve. But I guess for like someone's just starting out, that's not so relevant. But yeah, that's what I would improve for me personally. It'd be looking at sustainability and revenue generation.
Yeah, no, same for sure. Um, I've got a couple things that I'm toying with, like how to get the community even more involved in the creation of the content.
Mhm.
Because, like I said before, there are some conversations I'm just not fit to have with, because of the technical background that I'm lacking. I've toyed with the idea of creating a giveaway economy for community members to participate in the content and then be entered into raffles or giveaways. And I've written tokenomics for that. I just don't know if it makes sense to deploy it. I think I would need to invest some personal funds to get it off the ground, just to test it out. Um, I think going forward, my processes need to get streamlined. I think that's the biggest thing. I've done a year of content, 100 something videos, and I think that spending time to go back and reflect and critique myself. Maybe you went through that period also where you were spending almost more time critiquing yourself, and now you have some processes that are more streamlined. I think that's where I'm at now, where I should be able to come up with a system. How do I do my research? How do I collect that research? How do I decide on the delivery of it to make it concise but also interesting and useful? I think that's where I'm at now. It's the boring part of the process, I think. The boring part.
Congratulations on a year of content, by the way.
Yeah, I think I started my channel, I think the day of the Meta Rats mint. I think that's when I
Okay.
started it. So it was like basically a year. And then my first couple of videos, I did two Secret Network and then some Osmo and airdrop videos. And then I was like, oh, this is so much fun. Like I get to make these videos as I'm learning this stuff. I just document it. Right. And that's kind of how it started. Now I think I'm past that a little bit. I want to double back on some things that I already know. So it's not like I'm learning it for the first time and I can go deeper into it, maybe provide some insights. That's about where I am. It's about where I am.
Yeah, it sounds good. And you're always learning on the way, like if you're doubling
Yeah.
like back on this stuff. So there's always value to you personally, as well as like your audience that way. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think it's a
Yeah.
mistake for a new creator to position themselves as an expert. I think that's a huge mistake in crypto. I see it on Twitter all the time. Hey,
Yeah,
this is
it's
the
fair.
best whatever. This is what I'm buying to my 100,000 followers. This is the best token. You know, those tweets and those videos, I don't think they'll age well in the end.
They're disingenuous, I
Have
believe.
to.
I have a problem with a lot of people who do that, and especially around technical analysis, because most TA content is garbage. And I don't mean that horribly or arrogantly. Like, I'm an amateur technical analyst, like in the sense that I've self-taught, and even on my old content, I'd always say like I don't really know for sure. Like I just have to be quite good at like patterns and stuff like that, pattern recognition, which is what
Yeah,
charting is, which is why I'm good at chess as well. But the fact, like, what always bothered me, and it doesn't bother me to the point that I like go away from like this live stream and think about it and think, TA people, they're annoying. But like, what bothers me is like they kind of like have these like high conviction posts which sound like, as you're saying, they're experts in that field, and
yeah,
then people look at that and they go, I'm going to follow what this guy's doing, and then they lose loads of money, and then they go around and say, crypto's a scam. Like, look at all
yeah,
these like chartists that just post a load of rubbish, or like maybe someone's like, oh yeah, Bitcoin's going to go to the moon. Like this is just a little pullback. And I think it's really damaging. I think it's really, really damaging. And I also think the same thing of like the scam advertisements that a lot of content creators do, where they promote projects that are not very good for the consumer because they want to make $5,000 that month. And I think that's also very, very damaging. And like what
yeah,
frustrates me is these people who watch these different content creators, they can't tell the difference between good, valuable content, whether that value comes as entertainment or education or maybe just engaging the community. Like they can't tell the difference between the high value content and content which is damaging. And I think that's really sad.
Yeah, one thing that people will never see on my channel is price predictions or charting because I'm not interested in the prices. I consider crypto to be like a 2 to 5 year. You need a 2 to 5 year outlook, and if you don't appreciate the tech and the building, you're going to be miserable when the token prices are not cooperating with what your unreasonable expectations probably are if you're searching those kinds of videos. So I will never do that. One of the things I said in the beginning was absolutely no price videos at all. And then the second thing was just be a teacher. That's what I'm a teacher.
Nice.
Apply all
I like
my,
that.
I mean, teaching is content creation. So try to apply it to this. And if it's not fun, just don't do it. I mean, that was how I started. And then you could see the quality was definitely not a focus. If you go back to my old videos, they're horrible. I can't watch them. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up. I gotta wrap this up. This was fun, man. I
Sounds
would
good.
really love in the future, one of the things I thought of for 2023 was do like a monthly content creator spaces or like some kind of best practices forum to just talk it out with people who are succeeding at different things that I'm succeeding at, mainly so I could copy them, but also so other people can get inspired to maybe try
Mhm.
making content. So this was like a good this checks off one of my boxes for 2023. I definitely appreciate your time and all your insight because you are you're one of the original Cosmos focused channels, and I know, and you helped onboard me. So thanks.
No, it's been a pleasure chatting, Joe. I'm glad you kind of got your journey started, and I'm sure you'll do well. It sounds like you focus on like the values of your channel, which is really good.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I don't want to embarrass myself since I'm doxxed, and I don't want to get like beat up in public over some NFT video that I made. So try to keep it as honest as possible. And if you lose money, maybe I lost money. I probably lost money too.
yeah, you're trying to add value to your audience, not add value to yourself, and I think that's key when you're like
That's a good way to put it.
a, a, a community member that people look towards.
Cool. Well, appreciate it. We'll check back maybe in a couple months. We could do an updated version of this and maybe bring in some other content creators. So thanks again, man. Thanks.